Today we're going to be adding and subtracting complex numbers. The rules for complex numbers is we must treat the i's like variables. Next, we will combine the real parts and then combine the imaginary parts. The key with simplifying complex numbers is we cannot have any powers of I greater than 1. They are not allowed at all. So we have I to the first right here, and that is okay. However, we cannot have I squared. We cannot have I to the third. Cannot have I to the fourth. Any of those cannot be left in the problem. As we finish simplifying complex numbers, we must write our answer in standard form. A plus bi is the standard form that we must keep. Our first problem is starting out with adding two complex numbers. So when we're going to start out by adding complex numbers, we're going to add the real parts, 3 and 7, to give us 10. Then we're going to combine the imaginary parts, 2i and 6i. We're going to get 8i. And that is our final answer. Our next example is subtracting complex numbers. Now with subtracting is a little different than adding. The reason for this is because of our subtraction sign right here. We must distribute it to the 1 and the 2i to start out with. When we do that, it's going to change the signs. Now we're going to have plus, -1, minus 2i. Over here, 6 minus 5i will remain the same. From here now we will then go back and combine our complex numbers by doing the real parts, 6 and -1, to give us 5. Combine the imaginary parts to give us -7i. Now we have our final answer. Our next one is another subtraction. So we must do the same thing, distribute the negative to both sides of there. Now we're going to have plus -2 minus 3i. The 9 minus 4i will remain the same. Okay, so combine our real parts and our imaginary parts. 9, -2 gives us 7. -4i, -3i gives us -7i. So you see here in our final answers, our I is only I to the first. Not I to the second, not I to the third, I to the first. Now in example 4, we're still doing the same thing by combining our real parts and our imaginary parts. However, we do have to make sure that we have the subtraction piece here, and we got to make sure that we distribute it before we do anything. Very first thing we do. Now this 9 over here, it remains positive 9, but now we have a -10 and a -2i. And we're just going to bring the 5i down, but it's still negative. Okay, if you look closely, we'll see that our real parts are next to each other and our imaginary parts are next to each other, so it makes it a little easier. So when we combine the 9 and the -10, we get -1. When we combine -2i and -5i, we get -7i. There's our final answer. And please pay attention that my I am is still in standard form. Standard form we talked about was A plus BI. The imaginary part always goes at the end of the answer. Example 5 here is a little different because we're dealing with higher exponents. We have I to the fourth, I to the third, another I to the fourth, I to the third. And not only do we have that, but we also have the subtraction sign where we have to go and distribute. So we have a lot of things we got to pay attention on this one. We talked about yesterday in class that our I chart, I to the first, I to the second, I to the third, and I to the fourth, had values that mean something else, which would be the I1, I1. Now negatives are in the middle. So I1, I1. Now we're going to use this chart here to substitute into our I to the fourth, I to the third, and our problem. So I'm going to go back through, I'm going to erase this chart now. To give us a little bit more room. Alright, so 11, we'll put some parentheses because we know we'll be substituting something in. 4 parentheses. Now, we do need to make sure we change our signs over here. So it's going to be negative 2 parentheses, positive 6 parentheses. So what did we say our I to the fourth was? And our I to the third? Well, we know our I to the fourth was our last one, so that was a positive 1. Our I to the third is a negative I. So we're going to substitute those two pieces into our problem. So I to the fourth is 1. I'm also going to put it here, 1. And then our I to the third next to the 4 is going to be negative I, negative I. Alright, from here, we're going to then simplify this. So now we're looking at our i's as a power of 1, so we are in good shape. So we get 11 minus 4i minus 2 minus 6i. So let's combine our like terms. Our real part, which is 11 and negative 2, we're going to get 9. Our imaginary part, negative 4i and negative 6i, is going to give us negative 10i. So this one was a little bit of a multi-step. Again, the key thing that we had to remember here is what I to the fourth and I to the third equals. I to the fourth, remember, is 1. I to the third is negative I. Okay, we do need to remember those, and let's begin our practice. Now, you're coming in tomorrow for class. I want you to rate yourself. Are you in the I need help section? Are you, okay and you don't really need that much assistance? Or do you not need help at all? So figure that out, and tomorrow we will work on it in class.